superstars. Peps here for another lace-out review. This week, a massive, a huge round 7 of AFL action. Now, we all know it's been a number of weeks since the amazing man, the superstar, Jamie the J-Dog Wallis, departed our shores for bigger and better things with family and work. And we've pushed hard over the last number of weeks to get our shows out to you. But I have decided, you know what? We need more. We need to take it to another level. And so I have got tonight our first ever guest co-host. He will be the new co-host with the most tonight. You've heard him on the chat. You've heard him throughout the years on the Gold Coast season previews. And I'm so honoured to have him on board. Everybody, a massive round of applause for the great man, Thom Roker, joining us on Lace Out. Tommy, great to have you on board.
Oh, yeah, mate. Great to be here. Up in Queensland, we just had the May Day, Labor Day long weekend. So, it's everything shuts in Queensland on Labor Day.
Isn't everything normally shut in Queensland full stop?
But there's nothing open on the Anzac Day, Labor Day. Oh, not even Wallis service stations that are open 24/7.
Melbourne is worse. We're open all the time, 24/7. It's probably a bad thing at times too. A little bit like the North Melbourne backline. Always open. Nothing gets in its way. Absolutely disgraceful. And we'll get into all that. But great to have you on board. And everybody knows you are a massive Gold Coast Suns, I won't say fan, you're a fanatic. You love them, very passionate. Every single year we hear how good the Gold Coast Suns preview is. And for a while you've been saying, they're going to be making the 8. They're going to be making the 8. They're going to be making the 8. Now we're seven games down. Do you still see them pinching a spot in the final 8?
Well, perhaps there's 16 games to go. So, it's anyone's to take the from bottom to top. There's only 6 and 1 and 1 and 6. So 5 games, across the whole thing. Yep. The Suns are only a win and percentage out of the top 8. So, I'm not really that worried. But they've had a tough start to the year. Yep. Both grand final teams beat one of them. Yep. Not Sydney when they're at the top of their game. I would love to have played Sydney this weekend past.
Everybody wants to play Sydney. Sydney are the Sydney version of North.
Oh, they're garbage at the moment without a backline. But, we got them when they were, red hot coming off their huge grand final loss. They had something to prove because we've been giving them a dust-up as well the last 4 or 5 years. But anyway, I'm pretty happy. And our Bitchman, we got him again. Coach has lost the most games against the Suns.
Oh, we were having a bit of a chat about this beforehand. I got it wrong. I thought it might have been someone who's been around for a while. So I might have gone maybe a Longmire. I thought he would have had the most losses. But who's had the most losses to the Gold Coast Suns as a coach?
Damien Dimmer, unsackable Hardwick.
Yep. And he's had
6.
6 of them. 6.
The last 3 in a row. So, people who are backing the Tigers, I'm like, what are you doing? The Suns are obviously going to win. It was a close thing in the fourth quarter there, but the Suns sort of remembered that they can't just put the cue in the rack and they come out and iced it. But, Richmond are, 16th? My God.
The 16th. Yep, they're pushing for Harley Reid. It's simply that's what it's coming down to. They're tanking. They've had enough. They've got their 3 flags, 100,000 members. That's it. We're done. I had to play at Marvell. They don't like that. They don't like that place, and things have happened. So
you know what? They haven't won a game since Dimmer came out and said, I don't like playing here. They haven't won there. I can't remember how many, but it's a long streak now.
I think it's 4. I think their last 4 they've messed up there. Oh, that's a real shame. For all the Richmond supporters, we love you listening and tuning into us every single week, but it is a bit of a shame. But hey, what? We've got massive to get into. We're going to get into a lot more about each and all the games over this week. Tommy's going to give his absolutely cracking opinions on it. I'm going to be going forth as always. We're going to be bringing in the ladder very shortly. I've got the Magnus to do a bit of spin, round. We're going to be splashing some cash. We're going to be getting onto some it's probably been the most important week of football from a off-field perspective that I can remember. And so we're going to have a quick chat about some of those things around the grounds today. We've also got some bags. We're also going to have a look at one week at a time. It's going to be a massive show. But like we just mentioned, we've been talking about a few of the different places on the AFL ladder, and it's time to crack in to this week's ladder itself too. So Collingwood are up on the top. Another 1 point win, 117%. Look, they are the best team in the league right now. They are playing the most consistent and probably the most exciting brand of football. There are other teams who have been a little bit up and down, but Collingwood just seem to do it week in, week out, and had a great win. Adelaide have probably stolen defeat from the jaws of victory. So that's a bit of a slander on those. And their bad kicking once again has cost them. Theoretically, they could be sitting 6-1, almost 7-0 if their kicking was a little bit better in front of goals. The D's, St Kilda, Brisbane and Port Adelaide all on 20 points. Melbourne had the great win over North Melbourne on the weekend. St Kilda had their loss. Brisbane did what they had to do, and Port Adelaide, an absolute brilliant win against St Kilda on Friday night, and it was a great game to watch live. Carlton on 18 points, only really in there because of their double points that they've got. If they didn't have that, they'd be sitting 8th and just on percentage. Geelong won their last 4, I think it is, on 16 points. Got the second best percentage in the league in the space of 3 weeks. So it's just amazing. If you can get teams on the slide and you can smack them like they've done, amazing football. Adelaide, once again, they should be sitting a lot higher on the ladder. They are playing better football than what their position sits. Essendon, they've had a couple of rough ones over the last couple of weeks. The Western Bulldogs get another win, but their percentage is really lacking. Sydney Swans, for the great start that they had, they've found it very, very difficult over the last few, but yet still have a percentage of 104.6. GWS and also Gold Coast, Tommy's team, are just a game out. So there's still a massive or a mathematical chance to make it. And I reckon anyone from here on is going to find it very, very difficult. Fremantle, North Melbourne, Richmond, Hawthorn and West Coast rounding out the bottom 8. And at the moment, Harley Reid is looking like going to the Wet Toast Eagles. All right. Looking at that, Tommy, thoughts, opinions, where can you see the movers, the shakers, everything there?
Yeah, well, Pies on top. People were saying that they're probably flag favourites at the start of the season, and you'd suggest that they are. But there's one little thing I'd like to say, and we were saying it last year, and that is what happens if they don't have a big comeback when it comes to finals. And guess what? Look, they lost 2 finals by a very narrow margin.
Yep.
So it's that extra couple of goals that they need to get early. They can't keep starting slowly. I mean, they were on a 5-day break and all that garbage. But the other thing I could say about it is they're getting into other teams' heads, aren't they?
Yep.
If they're within striking distance, the other team just doesn't know what to do, or their systems break down. Adelaide just threw the towel in. It was just weird.
They did seize up, didn't they? It was just looking at the way, especially that last probably 2 or 3 minutes, there was opportunities for them to steal it. Even in the last 20 seconds, they had an opportunity, and just a simple possession, a handball, instead of kicking it, could have changed it altogether. So there is a big risk versus reward, but what we're seeing is more of the reward. What we have to see is if some of those risks don't pay off and they lose, what happens? We haven't seen that just yet. So I once again tipped them not to even make the 8. I just thought that they couldn't keep winning like they did. I also did tip Richmond to not make the 8, and I got laughed at, and I've got that one right. But Collingwood have beaten everybody, like I said, across the board. I think the team also that a lot of people would be surprised, but if you think about how they finished the season, it was actually pretty nice as well, was the Adelaide Crows. Like, they're sitting quite nicely. They've got a good run because, when you finish lower on the ladder, you're going to be playing a lot more of the lower than the higher. So they are positioning themselves into slaughter a spot in the bottom half of the 8 as well too. I think that anyone down to probably Gold Coast is a chance. But I'd say teams like Essendon, Sydney, and maybe GWS, I find may not. I think they're a little bit juvenile. Gold Coast, everything I really think has to go right for them to make it. And the Western Bulldogs, look, they're playing good footy, but they're going to have to find somebody else in probably 6, 7 or 8 just to fall away for them to steal a spot too. So we could be looking at the final 8 being settled right now.
Could be, but as I said, 16 games to go. So I can see other teams getting up. Sydney will get healthy again and they'll start winning again. The Bombers seem to have overachieved, but they've got an easy draw. They've got, I think I saw it last night, North and West Coast, or North and Hawthorn twice each.
Yep.
So, they're on 4 wins. That's 8. Give them those 4. And need to win another 5 games and you're in the top final. So
Right. So it's really weird, isn't it? Because you look at the fixture before at the start of the year and you go, we're going to peg 2 in here. We're going to peg 2. Well, people are going, we'll peg 2 in against Adelaide or we'll peg 2 in against Collingwood. They won't be able to do what they've done again. Or you get Richmond twice, go, that's going to be a bit of a tough one. It just depends. Like I only look at my team. We've got Hawthorn twice, North twice. We've got Richmond and Sydney twice. So we're not too bad. Funny enough, before we even joined tonight, J-Dog joined in for just a quick hi and a hello. And he was getting stuck into me about Melbourne's really soft draw. And I think there is a bit of merit to it, but you can only play who is in the actual fixture, if that makes sense. You can only play who you're up against. Like, we don't decide who it is. So, but you can go out like teams have done previously. We lost Essendon a few weeks ago. St Kilda on their home deck. Fast deck, they lose to Port Adelaide. Stranger things have happened. Adelaide should have beaten Collingwood. So there is that, regardless of who you're playing, you've still got to turn up on the day.
Yeah. And injuries at this time of the year, they start to build up. And there's a couple of teams that have only got a very, very short injury list. The Lions' charmed run has come to an end, and their 2 most experienced players are out for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Sorko. So they don't typically do very well without either one of those. So both of them out, that'll be a test. And the Suns are the other team that have got 2 guys on the injury list. They're both due to come back in the next few weeks. So that's one of the things that is going right. And then you got St Kilda, GWS, huge injury lists, and yet they keep on seeming to be able to win. It's they're obviously the Saints lost, but how do they bring their players back when they come back from injury? I mean, Max King comes straight back in, but who goes out? So they might have a bit of a transition period there, but I give up on tipping.
I got 6 last week, so I'm not going to brag, but I will. Hey, I want to shout out lots of people joining us tonight. David Saltz here. Buzz is back. Buzz, St Kilda did they get close? I think they got a little bit close, so that's why he's joined us. Normally, if they lose, he's nowhere near us. But they must be on a winning percentage at the moment, so he's joined us. Julie Julios is back. The amazing Tory here. Rambo Kafari. He was my old under-18s coach. What an absolute gem of a bloke. One of the most brutal footballers I have ever seen, and as a coach, one of the best as well too. So it's great to have Rambo on here. And he's actually said Carlton and St Kilda are the most vulnerable in his opinion. I would probably agree because Carlton haven't sort of reached the heights that we thought they would at the start of the season. They've sort of lulled a little bit. They've sort of lost their way. And St Kilda, can they sustain it for a full year? So we're only 7 rounds into a 23-round season. Let's have a look at round 17, 18, how they're going as well too. So I think what happens is that the first half of the season sets you up top 8, bottom 8. Back half of the year sets up whether you're top 4, bottom 4 of that 8 as well too. So I reckon they are vulnerable, but it also means if they just keep winning, it just makes it easier for them to be playing finals as well too. So it's going to be an interesting one. I can't wait. I reckon this is one of the most even seasons we've had in quite a long time. Now, I think, Tommy, I know you keep talking about this. One of your favourite parts of the episode every single week is when we get to spin the magnets. So I'm going to throw it over to you. What would you rather hear first? Would you want to get the votes or do you want to see who's going to be getting dragged?
Oh, let's see who's getting dragged.
All right, here we go.
Bloody Winker's piss. Kelly off, Ellingworth on. Bloody Winker's piss.
All righty. Now, a couple of things I wanted to bring up. Now, these are a couple, and I'll get you to throw one if you've also. So, Charlie Comden's broken leg. It's just more pain for North. And we always say, we want to take him out of a contest or we want to do this as well too. But when you see a guy playing for a team, and I want to say like North, you know what I mean, is like they're struggling as it is because of the quality that they've got on the park. But the way he went down was so innocuous. He just went down, just an ankle roll. It was a snap. There's nothing good comes out of this. And just for a young bloke, he's trying to get a game. He hasn't been setting the world on fire, but he's been doing his job. And to go down like that, like that's his season gone. Months just in rehab, months alone. You don't want that on anybody. So that was my first one.
Yeah.
The second one, and I had a bit of a think of this, and I thought about it, and it made sense. I know Jason Horne-Francis, right, went from North to Port.
Unicorn.
Yep. But why in the hell is any other team booing him? It doesn't make any sense. Now, the only thing that I can think of is why he left. Okay, so why did he leave? I can understand, he left to go back home, etc. Didn't like it at North, whatever. I think that's the only reason. But for any other people besides North Melbourne supporters to boo him, it makes no sense. St Kilda supporters were booing him on the weekend. And guess what you did? You just added fuel to the fire and he took the living piss out of you blokes and got BOG votes. So, hey, if you want to boo the guy, be my guest. But also, he's going to reap the rewards as well too. Now, I can understand North people doing it. I get that, all right? But anyone else, come on, you're better than that. You're better than that.
I hate people who boo. We had the Adam Goods saga, and a lot of the AFL was very late to. It took them months to even address it, and pushed him out of the game. I mean, I think Adam Goods has a case to be the best player of all time. Won 2 Brownlows playing different positions. Won flags, did everything, and then people are booing him, and so it's different reasons, but not many people are aware.
Yeah, but you know what, Tom? I don't think if you speak to the common football person, I reckon they would say a lot of their booing had nothing to do from a racist perspective. They just didn't like the way that he sometimes carried himself, sometimes the way he took contests on, raising feet, going high elbow, whatever it might be. So I think there was an element to that. And I think there's a bit of column A and a bit of column B when it comes to this. But this is all column B and it's bullshit.
But he is Indigenous. So that's something to sort of, consider, is that it's another Indigenous player getting booed by the crowd.
Yeah. Exactly right. It's funny, though, because I've got Andy Bridge. He's the superstar, Andy Bridge. I tell you what, didn't he get stuck into me after the Bombers beat the D's a couple of weeks ago? But he said Sard still gets booed after leaving Gold Coast and the Dons as well, too.
Yeah.
I completely agree, but I think it's for different reasons, though. Gold Coast, I can sort of understand, but he just went to Carlton because he thought it was a better opportunity, better money. And you know what? It is a business. They are literally independent contractors to a degree. Hey, wherever the best is, if you're going to give me, you don't tell me, if you're going to give me, 25, 40% more to do the exact same job, but just wear a different colour, I reckon most of you would actually do it as well too. And if anybody says no, I'd love to hear your reasons why. All righty, let's get into the good stuff, mate. And I'll tell you what, because you've joined me tonight, I'm giving you and all the listeners
3 votes.
We're giving you 3 votes. All right. First one. Will Ashcroft's goal.
Yeah.
Now, if you haven't seen it, go ahead and get on afl.com.au because it'll be the only goal that is up there for goal of the week. But to be able to jump up and throw it on the boot and roll it out and the way he did, unbelievable. It reminded me a little bit of the old what's his name? Wells. I've gone blank.
Oh, yeah, Daniel Wells.
Daniel Wells. I meant the David Wells. Daniel Wells on the goal line for North. The old slam it on. But he went, I'll take that and do it a little bit better and throw it on the boundary line as well.
You know where young Will Ashcroft was born, don't you?
In a hospital.
Yes. And the postcode, same as mine, the Gold Coast. And the Gold Coast Suns Academy basically made him the player he is. I mean, he's got a little bit of genetics from the old man, and he was probably always going to go to the bloody Lions through father-son. But, yeah, the Suns had access to him right up until Daddy got a job down at Sandringham as the CEO down there. And so, yeah, the Lions did nothing to develop the guy, and they got him for nothing. Well, they said it.
Well, it's a little bit the same as like Ugal Hagen. Like Ugal Hagen went number 1, and then they changed the whole way it was done after that for academy picks. And what really peeved me about that is that we put all this time into a young bloke that you would know called Mac Andrew, and you guys stole him from us as well too.
This week too.
AFL's very knee-jerk reactive in these things. So I think what they should have done is maybe given a year's leeway or 2 years leeway to know that you're going to be doing this. Not just bring it in the straight year, especially after you've done a lot too.
They're talking about bringing it back down to 20 now. 40, there's been a few guys who've been picked in that top 40 votes, so that they're unable to match the bid, and they've put all this money into their NGA academies and all that kind of stuff. NGA really needs to be looked at. You know that the Northern academies don't have NGA. So you could have a parent who's born overseas, or you could be Indigenous, don't get any of that development. Get some, but you don't get much. This year they've kind of brought it in so that there are a few more people from the Northern Academies who are doubling up, and there's a bit of a program for them now. Have you heard of the Flying Boomerangs?
No.
So it's a youth team made up of Indigenous players, and all the Indigenous kids go and play for the Boomerangs, and they do a bit of a Harlem Globetrotters, and then there's a world team. So the kids with a parent born overseas or kids who were born overseas. So, yeah, I mean, you name it. Anyone who's multicultural or Indigenous has played in those games. That program's now being expanded, so they've got a few camps and all that kind of stuff. So, they're getting there. But, I'm a big fan of NGA. But, yeah, it's a bit rich when someone gets the best player in the draft and they haven't done anything really. He wasn't in their catchment area until he was, and I didn't like that.
I'll tell you what, I don't know if all the listeners who are on the chat right now, listening and watching us live, Thom Roker, what an absolute gun. How good is he? Put something in the chat if you want to hear more from Tommy, because he is an absolute gun. Because this is the thing. We're in I won't say we're in a bubble when we're down here in Melbourne, but these are the sort of things that we don't get to see and don't get to hear on a regular basis. And so that's why we want to expand out our hosting so we can get people from Freo. We'll get people from over in Adelaide to give us the updates of what's going around in their state leagues as well too. We'll have a bit of a chat about that a little bit later on. But I also want to say, Adelaide, I know you lost on the weekend, but finally, someone decided to tag Nick Dacos. And it worked really well because he still had 31 touches at 59%. But Ben Keys did a great job as well too. So at least they had a crack. Like, he wasn't as dominant as always, but they were able to nullify him. And I think he only had 2 score involvements for the day as well too, which is a complete opposite of what he's been producing. So you may not be able to put out the fire completely, but if you can quell its influence, it can make a massive, massive job or massive difference as well too.
And Ben Keys, Queenslander.
Another one. Was he on your list as well?
No, he's the Brisbane Lions Academy, and they picked him up, and then they delisted him because they just had such list depth. They wanted to get some new guys in, and anyone in the whole country could have got him. The Suns had a look at him. He was sort of interested in staying up there, and they didn't go for him. Don't know why, but Adelaide got him, and it was very, very astute pickup because he's really brought them up from the doldrums, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's absolutely been sensational what he's been doing. And he's a two-way too, so he goes defensive, but he is willing to lock down on someone and break forward. And his last couple of weeks have been sensational. I think the previous week he kicked 3 as well too, so fantastic. And my love child delivered again in the Battle of the Bridge. I reckon Matthew Stavala, who I played footy with, was probably the greatest number 4 I ever played with. Absolute gun. Club legend. Just can't speak more than him. But the number 4 for the Greater Western Sydney, that man, Toby Green, my goodness. Like, I know a lot of people had a crack at him for being the captain of the club when he first came in as well too, but my goodness, did he deliver again? Gets down to the crunch. If you want to be green with envy, you got Toby Green with envy because he just does what he has to do. And I know he's got he's someone that a lot of people hate, but I guarantee that there would be 17, almost 18 other clubs that would have him on their list, bar none. I just love what he brings and the passion he has for his team, but also he just wants to win. I can see it now. Look at him. It's all coming through. Love Toby. Love what he does. Yep. This is what we get to see and this is what we want. That's what we love about our great game. We hate teams, but geez, we love players from other groups. Hey, can I ask a question before we go to the next bit? Tommy, who's a player from another club that you just love?
Oh, it's easy. Isaac Rankin.
Was one that was at your club.
Spewing that we missed him, but he's gone on. But no, my favourite player I've got to say is Marcus Bontempelli. The Bont just does it for me. He's so good. You'd love him on your team, and no one's ever going to get him. He'll be a Bulldog for life. And if they're going to get up and make grand finals again, it's going to be on his back. He's just too good. He's got everything. So accuracy.
He wasn't at his best last week, but geez, he was absolutely sensational. Do you know what I also love about footy, Tommy? I think everybody loves these as well too. Bags, bags, bags. We love it when they're kicking. Bags, bags, bags. It's got to be 6 or more. Oh. We love a good bag. And we had two of the biggest bags on the weekend. And one of them kicked by a guy in his the most he's ever kicked in a game. And we're talking about the Tomahawk versus Essendon. What do you have? He had 4 in the first quarter, 5 at halftime, 8 for the match.
Yeah. And
then
could have had more, but he dished off.
He's just silver service. And then before that, which I would say is probably an easier one, was Charlie Curnow coming out and kicking 9. And I think everybody was hoping he would get the 10th. We just wanted him to get the 10th. We would have loved him to get that last one because we want a moose. We want a moose. We wanted to see 10.
Yeah.
And if anybody's thinking what a moose is, open up your hands and put them to the side of your head. Look in a mirror. If you look like a moose, that's why we call it a moose, because it's 10 fingers with your antlers. But it was just nice to see, Bags. Loved him.
Speaking of Bags and Charlie Curnow, in the Academy series, Northern Territory versus the Suns on the weekend, a Charlie Curnow cutout. His name's Jed Walter, 18 years old. Kicked a bag of 8, if you don't mind, and could have had more because he did Tommy Hawkins and was just off. But at the Suns, we like to say, oh, no, he's just a man-child. He's just pushing around the young ones. He won't make it at AFL level because he's looking like a top 5 bid will come in for him. We're going to have to pay a fortune. But, very, very excited about him coming in and lining up next to Mr. King next year.
Hey, quickly, Tommy, some questions have come in off the chat. First of all, one big statement, Benji Tate. Great to have Ben Tate on again. He says Josh Dacos is hugely underrated. Been one of the best wingmen for the last 18 months and no one is talking about him. Our best young player except for Nick Dacos. Both brothers are our future. Hey, you know what? You're exactly right. I played a lot of wing over the years and so I have a lot of love for wingmen because I think it's one of those roles that doesn't get a lot of love, yet it probably do the most amount of work on the field. And you're probably right. I think that his brother Nick gets all the kudos, gets all the praise, but the work that Nick Dacos does up and back, I can tell you now, it's a position now that a lot more people or a lot more clubs are investing in. I know Melbourne went and got another wingman for Lockie Hunter. Collingwood play a nice wing mix. I actually think Gold Coast play a nice little wing mix as well too. So clubs know that, well, it's not just the midfield. You need to have that out. And if you've got that person, you know that every time you come out of the 50, they're going to be there. But also, if you need that person running down the ground, you've got them there as well too. Wingmen are a massive part of the game, which if you think a few years ago when they wanted to maybe reduce positions, they wanted to reduce it to 16. They wanted to get rid of the wingmen. It'd be a massive disservice to the game if they do that. So it's really, really good to see that what you've picked up on that because that's exactly right. Josh Dacos. And that's the only reason I can tell the difference between the Dacos brothers is one's got a beard and one doesn't. That's how it breaks it down for me. How many years left in the Tomahawk? Oh, geez, how many, Tommy? I reckon, he's 34?
Why not just keep it?
Why do we have to worry, David Salt, about how many years are left? Oh, I could probably say, if he keeps going the way he goes, I reckon at least another 2 next year and the year after, get to 36, and then we'll worry about it. I just know that when injury hits, it'll hit because he's a big guy, but he seems to take good care of himself. He's getting better looking the older he gets.
Look at Tom Brady in the old NFL. He's our age, just retired, and there's even a few whispers that he might be tempted back. 46. So, I think in the AFL we've seen a few guys who go into their late 30s, Tomahawk, if he's just going to keep on doing what he's doing down there, that I guess if he starts to get injured a lot, it's going to be see you later. But what if he played 10 games a year and kick bags?
Put him on a reduced contract, do the old Brad Ottens type of setup. We're going to play towards the back end of the year.
Yep.
Jamie Charman was the same for the Brisbane Lions. They used to play him towards the back end of the year, and I think he got 3 flags out of it. So you just play it on how you need to. Hey, Jules Julio asked, do you think this season we will see a ton?
Yep.
You reckon we'll see a ton this year?
Yeah, it might not be until the finals though. But Geelong's probably playing finals, like we think now, but maybe Carlton isn't. So imagine if you're stuck on 99 and you come ninth, all the 9.
That's got Tom Lynch written all over it. We won't kick 99 this year. I don't think it'll happen. I think clubs will start to lock down. They'll start to work the way. And also, they've got to remember, if they're getting a lot of supply through the midfield, once they start locking down people through the mids, it's going to be harder for the ball to get down. And then, I can't see, they have to kick on average 4 to 5 a game for the year. I can't see that happening. It's just been a rarity of a start, but games get a lot more defensive towards the back end. But once again, I'd love to see a bonus 2 points given for scores over 100 points. That would increase it, and then I would probably say there's a chance of it. But as we know, when it gets towards the back end, games get a lot less free-flowing, get a lot more grunty, especially around winter, bad conditions, etc. So I don't think so. And I'm going to get onto dangerous tackles because I want your opinion on that in a moment. All right, two things I want to go through. Our rising star for this week. So did you want to tell everybody who the rising star for this week is, Mr. Roker?
Oh, bloody hell, it's gone clear out of my brain as soon as you said it, but I did notice it in the before. It's
I'll give you a hint. Dolphins have them.
Young, it's the young fella, Jai. What's his name?
Oh, Finn.
No, really? No.
Yeah, Finn Callahan. That was last week.
I missed it. I thought it was Jai Cully.
That was last week.
Okay, there you go.
I'll do it. It was Finn Callahan. You can see in the notes. Finn Callahan being named the round 7 AFL Rising Star for this week after his performance against Greater Western Sydney. For Greater Western Sydney against Sydney.
He's like a new recruit, isn't he? Because he didn't play. Did he play at all last year?
He didn't play much because he was quite injured. So he's come back. So when I saw it, I went, but hold on, he's been around for a while. No, he didn't play much because of injury. But pick number 3 in the 2021 draft. Produced probably the best game of his career, had 26 disposals at 85% efficiency and took a game-high 10 marks at the SCG. So I think he is a ripper. I think he will stay at the GWS. I think Adam Kingsley has got them going really nicely at the moment. I know there's still a few things that they need to tweak and get their full complement out there, but they're doing some things right there at GWS, just playing a bit of a different brand than when Leon Cameron finished up as well too. So congratulations, young man, for your nomination in the Rising Star. At the moment, Tommy, who would you say would be leading the Rising Star if you had to have a look at it?
You know what? It's pretty even this year. I don't think there's anyone who's sort of way out in front. And it's whenever you get a number 1 pick who's a forward, they tend to take a few years to develop. So it's not going to be Cadman. My preseason prediction of Bodie Ulan lasted for 2 weeks. He'll be back. I think he'll probably score a nomination at some point. But I don't know. It's pretty even, isn't it?
I think, when I say I think, I do agree. I think Ashcroft has been playing really good footy. I like Sheasel, what he's been doing at North as well too. Mitch Owens has probably been the surprise packet in my humble opinion. I think that I've just been really surprised by what he's been able to do first season in as well too. So I'm a massive rap for him. Yeah, he's really, I like the way he attacks it, just the way he plays as well. I'm being a bit biased, but what Kyle Chandler has done for the D's over the first 7 weeks, surprised he hasn't got a nomination, and I thought this week would have been it, but he's been really consistent. So I think he'll get one in the next couple. But the ones that, like I mentioned, Cully, Gimby, they've been sensational as well too. So it's just going to open up over the next couple of weeks. I reckon it's going to, like last year, Nick Dacos had it won after probably the first 7 to 8 rounds. You knew he was going to take it out. This year, it's been a bit up and down, and I really like it. So it's an exciting time for footy. All right. And one other thing I have to remember is that we have got the road to the draft, journey to the draft. Our guy, our Sandringham Dragon, Jacob Grant. Now, we know last time we spoke, he played in the Vic Country versus Vic Metro game, kicked a couple, took a great hanger. His ball ground work was sensational. The Coates League has got a break for 4 weeks, so he's just playing some senior footy at the moment. But when that comes back, we will let you all know. But we're watching this guy because his family is absolutely sensational. It's kind of cool when you know someone who's going through the whole process, playing at that league, and then can they get to that Vic Metro squad? Can they get to that Vic Country squad? All that sort of stuff it's awesome. So the one we know, we'll tell you as well. All right,
that's a good opportunity to bring up our boy Ozzy Harris.
Yes, Ozzy Harris. Ozzy Harris.
I've been following him since he was 15, and he was just killing it. And it's a sad story because COVID and injury just wrecked his draft chances, and he just turned 20. So happy birthday this week for Aussie. And he celebrated with a goal in the East Keilor Cougars' massive victory on the weekend.
90 points versus Airport West. Beat us in the 95 flag. They did.
There you go.
The 95 A-grade flag. We won 94. They won 95. It wasn't, we weren't happy about that. But those are the things that happened. But yeah, he's Aussie Harris. Tommy and I spoke about him earlier in the season. He is a little cult. When he first played the first game of the year, it was against Greenvale. Absolutely tore it up. A lot of love for Aussie Harris. And I think he's played a couple of games before last week at the
Bombers. He's in the Bombers VFL. There's a few more games in the VFL before the mid-season draft, and that's where your boy's sort of got a chance, hasn't he? Because he's an overager. A couple of more weeks before we can really start looking at the predictions.
Yeah, well, and we'll definitely have a look at that as well too. Hey, a couple of things that have come in off the chat, and I'll tell you what, it has gone absolutely berserk. The questions are flowing through big way. I want your opinions on West Coast very, very shortly when we get towards the back end. Alvin Davey Jr. to run away in a canter. Charlie Keegan, you are dreaming, my friend. Jacob Van Rooyen, the Roo, has been a very, very good get. Like to see him kick a couple more threes and fours to get that nomination. I just don't like token ones given out to forwards. They've actually got to produce, but I'm very, very happy with what we see there. Tell me, where did one of our league's best players go in terms of Nat Fyfe? He's just injured. I think he's just injured, and he's too slow for the midfield, but he hasn't worked out how to play forward. I don't know where he fits. He's going to be one of those players who's a bit of an anomaly. I don't know where he sits, where he fits.
I think he's a good example of just Freo's fortunes altogether. But when they never had Pavlich, they always lost. So if he can't get fit enough to get on the ground, then their chances of them winning goes right down. If he can get right and get back into 75% of his best footy, Freo start winning some games.
Exactly right. Charlie Keegan's also said that Aussie Harris, Charlie's a massive Essendon man. He knows that Aussie Harris is a walk-up start for the Kangas right now. He probably get a game too because he's quick. He's got great hands and he loves a contest.
I'll tell you what, who you'd drag to give Aussie a game, I mentioned earlier, Jaden Stevenson.
Oh, no, he was stiff. He
was 50. I'm surprised Clarko didn't just go, get off. I don't care if it...
With that double 50 right, though. I know we're digressing, but these are the questions that are coming in.
He's a Hollywood.
What happened was that the first one, Sparrow, if you watch that, so Sparrow, he did duck his head and he's copped him with his knee and he's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, where am I supposed to go? And he's giving him a 50. And so he's given a bit of and as he's walked past, he's done the big duck head. He's ducked his head to go, show me this is what he's done. And then Razor's done the old,
there's no cash here. Here, there's no cash. All right? Cash, no. Robbo? No cash.
There wasn't cash. He meant to actually say,
Do not speak to me like that.
He's giving him the hand and told him to walk off. Once again, I still can't work out the buttons.
I know, he was like a school teacher.
I actually thought he was stiff because the first one he did duck his head, and the second one he was actually just trying to tell the umpire, look, this is what happened. And Razor just, took over and got another 50 and then ran off. So I thought he was a bit stiff, but yeah, I'd still slot him into the North Melbourne side. Pretty good. Harley Reid looks like he'll be the number one draft pick. Yes. Would it be funny if Richmond finished last? No. We don't want them getting a number one draft pick. But yeah, he's an absolute goose, Razor Ray, according to Buzz.
I used to dread it when he was umpiring Suns games because there was one game against the Bombers where the Bombers were robbed because there was a touched ball, but it was called a goal or whatever. And then he's obviously at halftime gone, oh gee, if the Suns win this, then I'm going to look bad. So he was just blowing free kicks for the Bombers just to even it all up. The Bombers ended up winning in the last 5 seconds. So yeah, he will, he will piss a lot of people off, but I don't know. I think he adds a bit of flavour.
Oh, yeah, he does. He does add a bit of Craig David to the game. Yeah, we like a bit of Craig David on there as well too, a bit of flavour. But look, he's one of those umpires that is polarising. I remember when my dad, Big Trev, Darren Goldspink, if anyone remembers the old days of Darren Goldspink running around, and whenever that number 32 was running around and umpiring us, Big Trev's head would explode. He goes, we're done today. He hates us. For whatever reason, people think that umpires hate clubs.
Yeah.
No, they don't. Because otherwise, if they did, they wouldn't bet on them. All right. So I think it's time to get into Around the Grounds. Now, we're going to have a look at some news, some of the big news stories that have come out of the last couple of days. And I must admit, and I spoke to you before this, Tom, I don't think I've seen probably 3 to 4 days of as big of news that has come out. First of all, on the weekend when we got the funding for via the government for the team down in Tassie. Okay. But then today, what we've also heard is that the 18 clubs unanimously have voted in favour of endorsing Tasmania's entry into league as the 19th team, with an official announcement to be made in the next couple of days. All right. Apparently, it took only 15 minutes for them to agree on what it was. And the commission will now meet on Tuesday evening, which is going on right now, to make a call on granting a new licence, with the decision potentially announced on Wednesday. All right. Now, this has all been backed by the government, AFL, and federal government support for the new stadium. I think it's a great choice, and I think it is perfect for them. Now, I've heard things on the radio from players, James Sicily. I've heard it from others who say, why would you go down to Tassie? It's cold. There's nothing to do, etc. Yeah. But yet you get other people like for the Jack Jumpers who have played down there, there's Americans who are playing. They want to keep coming back because they love the place. And I find it probably like a little bit like Geelong. It's an hour away. You know, it's less than an hour's flight to get there from Melbourne. If you don't want to be in the hustle and bustle, but you want to play footy, Tasmania's very picturesque. Hey, if you like fishing and you like wearing Macpac jackets, it's probably the best place for you as well too. But what do you reckon? What's your thoughts on it, Tommy, about them having a brand new team after being part and following an expansion team?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you think that the club or the AFL really need to look at in their infancy, based on what you experienced being following a new team?
Well, for starters, I reckon you need to bring in 2 teams. And the other team, Norwood's been talked about, and Craig on the chat saying Norwood should get or will Melbourne be upset if Norwood get the 20th licence, because, they're red legs and all the rest of it. Personally, and I've had a bit of an inside word on this, I think Darwin, the Northern Territory are the 20th team. Now, bringing them in one after the other, do you bring them in the very same time? That'd probably be a bit hard. But what are we doing gather around when we got 19 teams? Oh, yes, sorry, Geelong. You can't come to Adelaide because...
No. It'd be Collingwood, because Collingwood don't play out of Melbourne. So,
yeah. But I think the 20 teams is a good number, and I think that bringing in NFL style divisions where you play the same teams twice every year, and that'd work better. With 19 teams, it's just weird. But what are we going to call them? What's the Tasmanian? I've got an idea, but I'll run it by you first. What do you reckon would be?
I think that you got to go with the Tassie Devils. I know. Look, that's the obvious choice for it.
Yeah.
But I was saying, if they do go for the Tassie Devils, they're going to have to work out something with Warner Brothers, because they've got the Tassie Devil.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting what they're going to do there. Maybe the Tassie Two Heads.
The thylacines.
Oh, the Tassie thylacines. Yeah, the Tassie Cousins. It's all coming in on the chat. The Launceston Llamas by Charlie Keegan. It's all happening. People are so we've got the Tasmanian Two Heads, the Tassie Cousins, but I think the Tassie Devils. It makes most sense. It fits. I like it. It'd be interesting whether they go with the green that they use for their sort of state jumper. Whether they go,
they have. There's 2. When the Suns came out and they were red, gold, and blue, I just went, "What are you doing? Got to be green." I think Gold Coast.
Green. What do you want green besides the money up there in the Gold Coast?
Yeah, it's just But anyway, it's a missed opportunity. I think they have to be green. Although I can imagine a game for colourblind people, 8% of the male population. If you're watching an all green team versus the Suns, the only thing would be who's wearing the white shorts, or who's wearing the. You can't do it. They did it in the NFL years ago. 2 teams. One was green. I think it was the Jets and the Bills or something. Green and red. and colourblind people couldn't tell what was going on.
Oh, don't worry. Most people are one-eyed anyway, so they're struggling as it is. But I reckon it's a great decision. I look forward to seeing it. I reckon that's a nice weekend. Go down to Tassie. The Cadbury factory will be flooded. It'll be nice. Tassie's actually a really great state. If you've been down there, it's really picturesque. And I think that group will just absolutely absorb that. I don't think people say they should have relocated a team like North or whatever. I don't think they would have embraced it. They want their own. They don't want sloppy seconds. They want it fresh. And I reckon that would be a great choice for them. So I'm looking forward to it being rolled out.
They need three things.
Yep. What do they need?
Super coach. Don't know if Clarko might be sick of the Kangaroos.
No, I reckon a freshie will go down. Oh, well, do you need a freshie or do you go experienced? I don't know.
No, I think from the experience of the Suns and the Giants went with Sheets. Worked. Mm-hmm. Suns went with Bluey. Yeah, it worked in its way because they brought on as the young coach a couple of years before they actually came into the AFL. And if they had kept him, we might have played finals the next year. But I don't know who. I couldn't say who, but the list manager. They need a good list manager. It'll probably be Scotty Clayton. Those who don't really know who he is. In the 90s, he was the Lions or the Bears and then the Lions list manager, and he got sacked 2 years before they won all their grand finals. But he put that list together, essentially. And then he went to the Bulldogs, put together their great lists. They had a bad year. They got rid of him. A few years later, they win the grand final. And he was the list manager for the Suns. He cops a lot of stick for a lot of the bad decisions that didn't work out, and some of the not. But I call him a fool. I think he would be very, very good. Sentadoro.
Ali Keegan has just come out with a nice one. Please take Adrian Dodoro off us, Tasmania. No, they don't even want him either.
The Dodo. No, he'll be at the Bombers forever. Someone pointed out the other day he was at the Bombers when they gave Alwyn Davies Senior his 100th game because the boys were like 8 years old and they knew that the father sons were coming in. So he's been their list manager from when they got Davey Senior and now the juniors. And there's a third Davey, 16 years old, who's coming through in the next couple of years. So good investment. So that was a good thing that Dodo did. Was obviously the club knew that if they left him stranded on 99 games, there was these three little kids who were running around in the rooms after the game showing all the skills.
It's smart. It's a smart. Hey, I tell you what, though, there's also been another smart decision that's come through, which is Andrew Dillon, funny enough, after, a 15-month search and going through everyone under the sun, they found a guy 3 doors down in the same at the same milk bar as Jill. But Andrew Dillon has now been announced as the new CEO of the AFL. He'll take over at the end of this year, so they've got a handover period for it. Apparently, rumours were that they were even as down to trying to get him to stay for another couple of years in terms of the commission with Twitter, but he didn't want to do that. He was going to go in April last year, so we're talking around about a 500-day odd farewell tour. Like that's John Farnham like. That's how much it's been around. He beat people like Travis Auld, Richmond CEO Brendan Gale, Bulldogs President Kylie Watson-Wheeler for the role as well too. I think Richard Goyder was also pushing for Kylie Watson-Wheeler as well too, and that one didn't come through. A lot of people are saying is another boys club not announcement, another what's the word I'm trying to say? Appointment? I don't know. I don't know. From all I've heard and from all I've read, he's going to do a cracking job. He'll do it for as long as he needs to, and then we'll want to find the next person. And if he was smart, he would say to Brendan Gale, come over and be my head of football underneath me. And then when I decide to move on, come along and you've got the gig. Or
into Tasmania.
Yeah, as the CEO for Tasmania. Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Thoughts, feelings on this one? Like I said, it's a massive announcement. It's not often that we get a new CEO. I think we've had 12 in the entire time of the game.
Yeah. And I mean, in the AFL era, only 5. Look, you can't just keep the job forever. And Gil was looking like he was going to. But I like Dylan. I don't mind Dylan. their best mates or something, that, their wives were worried about what, how's he going to cope without his best friend and all this crap. As soon as I saw him on AFL 360 last night, I just went, no. Yeah, this guy's saying all the right things. And I think he'll be a bit of a departure from Gill, because Gill just tends to be like, oh, no, I wouldn't say that. Like things like when they say, oh, did you give Gold Coast all these extra list concessions because you didn't set them up properly? And he's like, no, we set them up exactly the same as GWS. And that's just bullcrap, because GWS got, I don't have time to go into it, but GWS got everything. The Suns got nothing. And they needed to tip in all those extra picks just to sort of say, either you're just going to come last every single year, or we give you the boost now so you can be competitive in a few years. So
I don't mind. I reckon it's a great appointment. I think it's just, I think the clubs want to know, why did it take so long? That's a valid question. Why did it take so long? But yeah, I think they do move on. Gill seemed to be someone who, was always take the mickey out of himself, something that Andrew Demetrio didn't really want to do.
Yeah, I heard Demetrio was really like, everyone effing sit down, no one's leaving until you do what I say.
Yeah.
And then, so he was sort of, doing it that kind of way. I wonder what Gil McLachlan will do next, because the AFL CEO pay packet, I looked it up, and it's less than $2 million a year. And for CEOs, that's actually not a lot. And I wonder if he's just going to get the golden handshake and someone's going to just install him somewhere and he's going to be on 20 times that.
No doubt. No doubt. Like I said, if you've read Mick Warner's book, The Boys Club, have a good read of that. That explains literally everything that we've spoken about too, because that is a real eye-opener. So grab a copy of it if you can. I had a chat to Mick many, many moons ago. And I'd love to actually have another chat with him about this appointment too and see it from his perspective as well too. So you never know. I might have to throw the message out there and see. All right. One thing that I saw, one thing I saw, which I didn't even realise this, and the last sort of big thing around the ground, and it's actually technically around the grounds, is that there's a contract clause for the MCG that could see the AFL Grand Final held interstate during the Shane Warne stand rebuild.
Oh, okay. Wow, okay.
The Grand Final could be moved interstate due to construction of a revamped Shane Warne stand at the MCG. Now, it's expected to take place in 2028, around that time, and the MCG would receive $2 billion reconstruction as part of the fund as well, which would improve the capacity to 105. But here's the thing. In 2018, there was a contract made between AFL and the Melbourne Cricket Club and the government that would ensure that the MCG hosts it to at least 2057 or 2059 with COVID. But the clause is this. However, if the stadium does not hold 70,000 people, they may be able to move the game. So if they take out approximately 50,000 seats out of the MCG for that whole stand, it may trigger the clause that potentially the game could be going to other states. I don't think that's a bad thing.
I don't either. I was a bit miffed when they made that announcement. It was so much, it's a boys' club. It's an inside thing. They'll never get full capacity at the MCG because you're never going to get all the MCC members take their seats. Yeah, it's just, it's, you're an MCC member yourself, you know?
Yep.
I reckon it was good to have it in Brizzy. Now, I don't know if the dates will line up. It probably won't now that I think about it, but imagine if the new Gabba was ready.
I think it will be, because I think when are the Olympics? 2032? Might be. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. But I think I don't mind it. I like the way that the state of origin does it, where they play the first game in a different state and then they play the other two in their own state. I love how that works. I know that the NFL go different places every year. But soccer now have actually gone to their home city as well too. So that's a bit of a sucker as well too. But I wouldn't mind seeing it maybe every fourth year going to a different state, just so they can plan for it and build for it as well too. But I love what they did over in Brisbane. I love how it was presented over in Perth. Could you imagine what Adelaide, after what they've done with Gather Round and Live down there, they will be just busting their chops for it.
Good stadium too.
The other problem is, though, is that when your team makes a grand final and wins a grand final and you can't go to it,
I know, right?
bloody Ruby Princess, that's got to suck.
Yeah. There will be at some point, it's been promised that they'll have a federal ICAC, and that'll be one of the first things I reckon they'll be having a closer look at. I mean, we couldn't keep it out forever, but gee, that was sus, wasn't it?
It was dodge. Didn't like it. But we say, still got to see it. Just would have loved to have seen it in person. Hey, what's one thing that you love about life, Tom? What's one thing in life that you look forward to? It might be every week. It might be every fortnight. It might be every month, depending on what cycle you go with. What's that?
Long weekends.
Oh, long weekends?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought it might have been this.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
Money, money, bling, bling, chicken wing, dollar bill. I had to splash a bit of cash because there's been some contract news that has come in this week. And the biggest contract signing, I would say that a lot of people were hoping for, and a lot of people in Port Adelaide were telling me he's gone. I know people in Perth that were saying to me, Peps, say goodbye to him. But Cozzy Pickett has signed for 4, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 more years to stay at the D's. That will get him to free agency. I think that was an absolutely smart decision. I would have hated for him to go, especially after Jackson left. That would have been devastating. I love everything about he is. Tori's been saying, are you going to say something about Cozzy? I just had to play that. I had to play the intro because it was all about the cash. So he stays as well. On top of that, Alex Neil-Bullen gets another 3 years at the D's as well. My dad, Big Trev, absolutely loves that decision. He's been playing some awesome footy. And even more importantly for the Cats, Mark Litzarves has also extended for another 2 years on top of his contract as well too. So a really, really big couple of signings. I'd say 3 big signings there as well too. So absolutely love it. Benji Tate is now saying, this one's for you, Tommy, that Ben King is off to the Magpies. Well, I don't know if you heard the interview with Ben King today, Ben, but he is saying, I don't want to go anywhere.
No,
I want to go to the Magpies.
He's shacked up with his missus. He's best mates with Rowley and Nando and Luco. They've really got a nucleus of players who they sort of all brought together within a couple of years, and they're all gelling. There won't be anyone who wants to leave the Suns at the end of this year. I mean, a few lads who might be a retirement or two. A few lads who'll be a bit sour about having to get traded or delisted. But Kingy's come out. I mean, in a way, this is just how Tom Brown and the media. You know, Tom Brown comes out there and says, "I have heard that Collingwood's going after," and then he comes out the next day saying, "Oh, but maybe Max King's going to the Suns."
Yeah, it's all bullshit. We know it. It's all clickbait. They never say, I got it wrong. I got it wrong. I got it wrong. Just come out and say you got it wrong, and you probably get a lot more credibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, you know what? I've got that wrong. I've got Collingwood wrong this year. Completely wrong.
And what would they trade for him? I mean, whenever you hear these players linked with certain clubs, you're like, what have you got that you could give?
And that was the thing. They were saying, Cozzy's going to go to Port Adelaide. I'm like, oh, for what? Yeah. You've got nothing. You haven't got 3 first-rounders or 2 firsts and a second. You've got nothing. And who are we going to get? Connor Rosie? Oh, I'll probably take Connor Rosie. But what are you going to give me? Mitch Georgiades, Bergman and someone else? Oh, I don't know. Hey, a couple last things before we wrap up. Quick spin about last week's games. I only want to spend probably a couple of minutes on these at the most. The Friday night game, Port Adelaide versus St Kilda, belter of a game. Port Adelaide was simply awesome. I was really impressed with Miles Bergman coming in. He was an early sub into the game, and he just literally tore it up. But the Horny Boys, Jason Horne-Francis was just sensational. And they got the job done against St Kilda. St Kilda just got beaten by a better team. I think that's all you can really say about that particular game.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's quite a dead cat bounce, but, Ross the Boss was looking like he was unbeatable because when the first few games they played, no one got close. And now they're sort of being a little bit found out, aren't they?
Yeah, and Port have won, I think, their last we get this, Ross, about the last 7
Oh,
or 8.
yeah, right, yeah.
They've got a great record there as well too. Bit of an a bit of a something that we saw coming. Brisbane over Fremantle. If this was SEM, we'd say who's it say more about? I think Brisbane just did the job what they need to do. When you have 30 scoring shots to 17 across the game, Charlie Cameron did his thing. Danaher does his thing. Fremantle are absolutely woeful right now. They've got no forward line, no structure. They play a game that was suited for 10 years ago. And I was speaking to the Duck from the Fremantle podcast. Yep. And Purple Rain, and he was saying, mate, I won't repeat what he said.
Yeah, he's very brutally honest about his own club, isn't he?
It's good, and I like it. Hey, we've had a chat about the GWS and Sydney earlier on, the Battle of the Bridge. Toby Green, they win by a point. Absolute cracking finish to the game. Sydney are in all sorts at the moment. They need their players back. That just goes to show, like, they were able to win that with so many players out from Sydney, but they've had more of a crack than they have in the last couple of weeks.
Both those teams have been racked by injury. So, and for GWS, it's a couple of the younger guys who stepped up too, wasn't it? Like you mentioned Callahan. And to do that against Sydney's midfield is even better, isn't it?
And when you kick 17 goals 5 to 16 goals 10, bad kicking's bad football, Adelaide style. So that's what cost Sydney the game. Hey, this is actually a pretty good game for probably 2.5, 3 quarters, Western Bulldogs versus Hawks. It was pretty tight. And then the Doggies just took over in the second half. What they've been probably doing over the last couple of weeks, they've got their mojo back. They've, I think, almost got their full complement back online. Hugo Hagen is far and above playing his best season so far. Yeah. The Bont just keeps doing what he does. Was a little bit quieter on the weekend. But Will Day for the Hawks, what an absolute ripper he is.
I know. You know he was a Sun supporter.
Oh, everybody's the same. We all follow the Suns.
Yeah, he was dead sick. Because I mean, his cousin Sam plays for the Suns, but his grandfather was a flag player for Hawks. So it's kind of a grandfather-son, grandson for them. I'd love him in the team. I think anyone would. But what would you have to give up for him? Probably a first rounder and a player, or
you'd have to give him maybe a late first rounder or a couple of seconds because he's developing into something really, really nicely. Couple of blowouts here really quickly. The D's by 90 over North. When you kick 22-7, and if you're a Melbourne supporter, you know we don't kick 22-7, but our efficiency from set shot kicking this year has been blowing us away, except for Max Gawn. North were woeful. That's as simple as that. It was over in the first 5 minutes. And it was over in the first 5 minutes over in Perth as well too. Carlton by 108. That score was a little bit surprising. I thought West Coast, over their performances in the last couple of weeks and coupled with what Carlton have been doing over the last couple of weeks, I thought that would have been a lot tighter. But all I would say is simply this. When you have 14 scoring shots to 37, you're not even going to get close, and they didn't. And Charlie Curnow, we know, kicked 9. Sunday, what a hell of a game for quarters.
West Coast are done. They're you look at Shannon Hearn. There was a moment in that game where he had a screamer taken over his back. And to me, his whole body language just looked like, I should have retired. He's had it. And such a great player and great clubman and just an awesome defender. And you just love it when he winds up out of the goal square and puts it up to the halfway. And he's not a shadow of his former self. And he's running around with kids and they're just getting...
And they won a flag 5 years ago.
I know.
Like that's how quick their drop-off has been. It has been brutal.
Apart from injury, they probably should have been maybe playing Richmond in those grand finals. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They just, Nick Nat. They missed 2 years of Nick Nat with his knees. Could you just imagine? That's another story for another day. I've got a massive question about that Hall of Fame. Should he make it? My answer is no. Hey, Geelong by 28 in the country game. Dangerfield smashed it. Cameron smashed it. Essendon, Sam Wiedemann. I was pumped for Sam Wiedemann kicking 5 in this. When players leave your club, most times you can be really disappointed. I was happy he left Melbourne because I thought he got squeezed out. He needed another opportunity and maybe just a different scenery. Hopefully that was something that broke out for him. And a lot of people have said, a lot of Melbourne people said, good on him because it was nice to see him kick 5 because he's that type of guy. And hopefully he can do it on a regular basis as well too. But Geelong, they're finding some form, Tommy.
Well, they won 38 zip, and they end up winning by 28. So you get out to that kind of lead, and you can keep it all day. Yep,
and Cameron kicks a casual couple as well too. They kicked 5. No, Hawkins kicked 8.
Yeah, no, that Geelong was
Kicked the
really
game 335 or 336.
I'll say
Unbelievable.
this: I thought that the Bombers stayed in it, and
Yep, they did.
and that's credit to those players who they know that their chance of winning is pretty damn small, but they just kept on going and going. And then Geelong put the cue in the rack, and the Bombers just kept going right up until the final siren. But I think if you finish a game well and you lose, momentum carries. So the Bombers could be heading into this next round, with a bit of belief and probably not too many changes.
And you know what? Well, I actually hope that's wrong because your mob had a win, which the Gold Coast Suns, if anyone can't tell, Thom Roker's decked out in Gold Coast Suns hats, jackets, scarves. He just looks like a stunt double from a Harry Potter movie with all the maroon and the maroon red and the gold out there. But 72-48, you win by 24 over Richmond. Once again, goal kick. You've had one less scoring shot. You kick 11 goals 6. They kick 6 goals 12. Ben King comes back, he's 5. I think that was the game a lot of people saying move him down back, and I was the same. Only comes out and kicks 5, and I think a lot of people were happy to see that happen.
Yeah, and he hasn't missed one for 4 weeks. So set shot. And he's just marking everything. Mark, goal, mark, goal, mark, goal. I want to say this one thing very quickly. At the end of 2017, the Suns had a complete clean out, the new president, new CEO, new coach, new list manager, new general manager, the whole thing. And I mentioned before, Scott Clayton, inaugural list manager, he was told he wasn't going to be renewed, but they got him to stick around to do one last draft. And there's 4 guys that he brought in that the whole AFL world just said he was useless and it was worst thing ever. Mm-hmm. Brought in Lockie Weller for pick 2, and also the pick that got Charlie Ballard. Everyone said that was the worst trade in history. It's probably a win-win now. Ballard at A-graders. They brought in Will Powell, and everyone went, who is this kid? Like, never played any rep footy or anything like that in Western Australia. Even the Eagles and Dockers were, like, not hot on him. And then Mad Dog Nick Holman in the rookie draft, recycled
the best mullet in the league.
And those 4 guys came in at the same time as Stewie Dew. They're just outstanding, and they're really holding the whole team together. Late last year, we had none of them.
Made a massive difference to finally get him back on the park. I know Touk Miller was out. That's probably the reason why I didn't pick you, because he was there. Yeah. When you have that Jared Witts running around for your mob, like he is arguably the best ruckman in the league. You put him, Gordon, probably Tim English together, nothing stands in their way. Absolutely sensational. And nothing is standing in Collingwood's way. We spoke about this before, that never say die attitude. When you kick 7-16, you're never going to win a game, especially, but it hurts even more when the other team kicks 8 goals 11. So you have 23 scoring shots to 19, and a number of those you could have nailed. You only needed to nail one of them, and you win the game. That's going to be a loss that they are definitely going to rue. So that's a wrap up. There's the scoreboard for round 6. All right, we are about to wrap up. One last thing before we do. We always go through 1 week at a time. So just having a look at this week's games, Tommy. What are the ones that sort of catch your eye for round 8? Which one are you looking forward to from your perspective? And it could be a couple, because I think there's actually a couple of rippers. I must admit, there's one game that we're very much looking forward to.
Yeah, no, I can't go past the D's and the Suns.
Yep.
I think, so I'll just say 2 things about it. Number one is the Suns have to make a change to a very good backline in the last couple of weeks, because Bailey Fritsch is quietly creeping up the goal-kicking leaderboard, and he's 16-4. Ben King 16-3. The two guys who are going to really determine things. Now, you know who the Demons are going to put on King and Co.
Yep.
I reckon Levi Casbolt comes back this week just to give.
We'll stretch it out a bit, yeah. Petty comes back, and what's his name? Casbolt plays. Petty will go down back. I can tell you that now, and then they'll go for a faster forward line.
But yeah, Shaki looks like he might even be injured. But you reckon Benny Brown comes back, or are you going to go 3? Well, I mean, is French at all?
They'll bring Petty in, and Charlie Spargo will be back as well.
That's true. I think Andrew will be back, because going with the two 12s in the back line was good against the Tigers, but it won't work, because who's going to mark Fritsch? who's going to mark up on the taller forwards that the D's have got? You reckon Tommy McDonald might be in the mix, or?
Yeah, I don't think Ben Brown's been, mate, they both haven't been lining it up in the last couple of weeks in the VFL, so I don't know who they go with. To be honest, I've got no idea. But I do know Spargo will come in because they just love what he does forward 50 and his pressure is going to be massive.
Hey,
so we're both looking forward to that game.
You know one other game?
Yep, go for it.
Casey Demons and Gold Coast Suns, both top of the ladder teams in the VFL. Casey did lose one last week, but they came back and they're going, well, that's going to be a cracker because both teams are very deep. There's a lot of AFL talent.
Deep, very deep. They are. They've got a lot. Go have a look at their VFL lists, like very, very mint. Ours are more experienced, but yours are younger, but there's some good young in there, which is awesome.
16 players in the Suns reserves who've got AFL experience.
Stop it, Tommy. Stop it. You love a stat. You're like me. Hey, I tell you what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to Carlton and Brisbane.
Yeah.
Because that's down here. Will Brisbane be able to win outside of under the dome? Will Carlton be able to come back after their poor week last week?
No Zorko, no Rich, no Hines.
No. Geelong versus Adelaide, GMHBA. Like, that just explains itself. They're probably the two most informed forward lines running around. And, probably Port Adelaide, Essendon, Adelaide Oval. Essendon had a good time last time at the Adelaide Oval, beating the D's. They won't fear them as well too. But just even games like Freo and Hawthorn, like, it's almost, imagine Hawthorn beat Freo over there. They'll be asking for Longmire's head, Longmuir's head, sorry. North Melbourne, St Kilda, that pretty much explains itself. Collingwood, Sydney, like, which Sydney's going to turn up? There's just so many big things to come out of it, but it's going to
have like a big, tall, fearsome forward line to fear. So Sydney's having to play this smaller back line. But I don't reckon Sydney players will be, they won't want to keep churning out this thing. So I can see Sydney getting up and winning that one.
Yep. Oh, interesting. All right. Hey, Tommy, do you know what? Have you been reading the chat? There's a lot of love for you. There's a lot of love for your knowledge and the passion that you bring to the game.
Thanks.
It looks like you might be paying a visit to be another co-host with the most. Very, very short too. So, hey, if you want Tommy back, leave a comment right now. Leave a comment in the chat. Leave a comment on the Facebook page. Send me a PM. DM Tommy if you like as well too, because he absolutely loves his footy. He knows everything about Gold Coast, but more importantly, he's been following our podcast literally since day dot, and that's the reason why he's on here. He's an absolute superstar. So that is your round 7 review, lace out style for you all. Have you had a good time, Tommy?
Oh, mate, I knew we'd go over time.
We love a chat, both of us. But more importantly, Tipped Out will be back this week. Now, we also said we've got a sponsor for the show as well too, TechPlex Solutions. So if you're looking for home or business security solutions, they are the ones. So TechPlex Solutions for all your home and business security needs. Everything from keyless entry, keypads, you name it, commercial, they've got everything. Absolute legends, and they've come on board to give us a bit of a ride. So make sure you get around them as well too. But Tommy, you know that we finish off the show. There's always one question I ask when we do a season preview, when we do an episode like this. It is simply, Tommy Roker, from the magnificent Gold Coast Suns all the way up there in the Queen of the Land, how do you want your footy?
Lace out.
There you go, listeners. How good's the guy? I hope your team wins and have a great weekend.
Peace out.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of Lace Out. Head over to iTunes and Spotify to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. And remember, join us every single Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, on our Facebook page with yours truly, Christopher Pepper, and the co-host with the most, Jamie Wallis, giving you your footy how you want it. Lace out.